We're, Welcome everyone to Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. It's great having you watching us today, listening to us, and participating with us. You can watch us, listen to us, and tape us, comment, subscribe, all on YouTube or certainly Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all the social media platforms. You're watching us on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world and the nation. My guest today is one of the most distinguished gentlemen in the city of Detroit. He actually should be called a Detroit historian. I know that the city of Detroit recently hired a young black man as a historian for the city, but he has nothing on the gentleman that I'm sitting across from. Mr. Bert Deering is loved, liked, respected, not only here in Detroit, but actually around the country and around the world. Welcome, Bert. How are you?
Hi, how you doing, Mr. Bernard? How you feel? Glad to be here. And such a beautiful day in Detroit.
It is a beautiful day in Detroit, and your love and commitment to Detroit surpasses anyone's that I know. You're a unique gentleman. You are what Roosevelt used to say, you walk softly but carry a big stick. And that big stick is your brain and your experience and your ability, I think, to connect the dots. I have awesome respect for you and awesome respect for all the things that you've accomplished. But before we start getting into those things, I'd just like to today, because Black History Month has ended, but our country right now should be much more actively involved, either directly or indirectly, in what has become a major conflict in the world, in Ukraine, with more than 1 million refugees, as Putin has just gone crazy. And I understand that there's a bounty on him now. But I didn't know if you had, because I know that you're a great student of American history and certainly of Detroit history. If you have any comments on what's happening with Ukraine and with our country and politically, nationally, because everything that happens nationally, of course, affects us here in Detroit. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share, since you have a global perspective?
It's bad to see what's going on over in Europe, but every 20 years they have to create something where the top 13 families be able to play dominoes or chess or whatever they want to play. But I'm more so into our history, where our government, to me, is the biggest liars in the world. So it had, to me, I had to be 77 years old to learn that everything I've been taught has been a lie. So for the last year or so with COVID-19, I've have to re-educate myself on history and life itself. So I'm all about generational wealth among black folks, and we have lost that in so many ways.
When you say that the United States government is the biggest liar in the world, you want to be specific?
Well, the education system, 400 years, and even this COVID-19, government have never did anything for blacks. Come to your neighborhood or your house or give you anything. My 78 years, I never know the government to come into the black community to do something very positive that didn't benefit them. If you go back to the Tuskegee experiment, so I look at this COVID-19, the shot stuff, has been another experiment eliminating. Every 20 years they have to eliminate X amount of people.
That's correct.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but I just sit and watch my history, and I just watch. If you don't do for yourself, God bless the child and God is all, and that's the gospel, And what makes Detroit so unique, we have some of the best hustlers in the world. We know how to get out and hustle and make things for ourselves. And they didn't take all of that away from us with the lottery and other little things or whatever. And but it's hard for me to see our kids being what we were 10, 20, 30, owning stuff or whatever. I can recall we owned everything in my community. Every store, cleaners, restaurant, gas station, everything was black owned. And everybody knew each other. And everybody worked with each other. And I don't see that today.
You don't see that, even despite the fact that we have all of these, quote, minority business associations and all kinds of associations and everything that are supposed to represent us and our community.
But they all I don't see them working together as we, coming together as a community, where let's all be on the same page. It's still I. And I believe in we, you have to have a team.
I do too.
Okay? And I'm glad for them. We need different groups and stuff coming together. But until you can unite and put a plan together that's going to benefit, and being separate as individuals or whatever.
Separate associations
or whatever.
This one, that one, the other one.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say that, because these are quite lucrative associations. Their CEOs and their directors and so forth make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But they never seem to grasp what you say is the real issue, which is all boats must rise. And in order to do that, we have to work together. And that you think is not happening. Are there any associations that you think are particularly good or beneficial? Any that you may be a member of?
I'm not going to single anyone out. I think whatever they're doing is all great, but having a program and completing the program and seeing the program grow and seeing the individuals that's in the program coming back and giving to that particular program, like certain areas or whatever. And, Jalen Rose, I use him as an example. He left the city, come back, and
Who? I'm sorry?
Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose, okay, the basketball player.
So, and we have other individuals or whatever, but
Weber.
Weber, okay.
Yeah, I just saw him the other night.
Yeah, but they come back giving something, creating something in the neighborhood.
Correct.
And I think, if you came from it, you should be able to give something back. And I don't see that to the extent that the folks that we came out, that Detroit made them because of Detroit.
I see. I understand. Yeah, and I agree with you. Jalen Rose created a school. Chris Webber has this major marijuana business, etc. Some people have done it, as you say, and obviously the greatest example of people who move away and give, I think, is one of the greatest ones is LeBron James, because of what he's done in Akron, Ohio, and established that 4-year scholarship program for everybody who graduates from high school. They can go to school for free, based on his dime. And but you're right. We've not had that sort of leadership here in large measure, with the exception of yourself. You give a great deal to the community and always have through Burt's a marketplace, which is one of the premier business places in the city of Detroit. I met some people last night from Atlanta, and I was at a place, and I said, you guys should go by Burt's tonight. I mean, that's where there's live music. I said, if you really want to have a really great experience, that's where you should go. But you've been doing this, really by yourself, almost solo, for a very long time now. You raise our banner for the city of Detroit to the world. So many of us are grateful to you, Bert.
But we should have over a dozen of Burt's Place in the city of Detroit. Detroit West, we had many, many places 20 years ago, and it shouldn't be down to being one or two or three places today.
Well, there are only 3 places downtown, aren't there? You, Trianda's, that are black owned. Anything else I can think?
Chuck in the Eastern Market.
I didn't know there was another guy in Eastern Market other than you.
No, Chuck.
Chuck?
Yeah.
Chuck, what's the name of his business? Oh, well,
Just
I'll
cover
figure it
it
out.
off.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I know Nolan. Chuck Nolan's place.
Chuck
Oh, he's still,
Nolan, yeah.
he's open over there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's absolutely
and Joe
true.
Spencer,
Okay.
Louisiana, and there's a few others.
But but none that have live music like you. No, I don't think there's any place in downtown other that's black owned.
Live music, you about right.
There isn't
You
any.
about
You
right.
are it.
Okay.
You're the
I
it.
never even thought about it. Okay.
That's a
Okay.
fact. But no, but you love Detroit. Were you born here?
I was born where I'm at now in Eastern Market. I was born one block over on Ripe Hill, 6 blocks down, and that was my neighborhood with a Pepsi plant. So I was raised in that neighborhood. My
Where'd you go to
grandfather
high school and grade school?
I went to George Trade, Campbell, Greisel, Northeastern.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you go to college after you finished high school? Or what'd you do?
I went to Lawrence Tech,
What'd you study?
engineering, and I got drafted in service. And prior to that, I
What
also
part?
went
What branch
to
of the service did you serve in?
U.S. Army. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your service to our country, both on behalf of our community, on behalf of America, and on behalf of the world, because what American soldiers do generally will benefit the world.
That is true. That is true.
And I definitely appreciate that. So you served our country. You graduated from Northeastern High School. You came back home. And then what'd you do?
I became a hippie.
Did you? Did you have braids and everything and smoke weed and
No,
bell-bottom pants?
no,
And
I had
what'd
the,
you
I
do?
had the bell bottoms and all that. I hung out and
Free love, free everything,
well,
free sexy, everything.
that was all part of growth. You know.
Okay, that's part of growth.
And I was a beatnik, and then I became. I came home a week before the riot, and
As a 67?
67.
Okay.
And after the riot, and I was a beatnik, I got into politics. I ran for a county supervisor. That's Common Council. That's Wayne County Council now. And there was Mr. Banks, Pollock, that won, but I came in 3rd place.
Okay.
And I was having teas in the projects and stuff and whatever. But all my friends that went to vote, none of them was registered because they're all from the hood. And we wasn't aware that you had to register before you vote.
So that's why you lost. Because
well,
we weren't registered.
right.
If they were registered, they could have voted.
Voted,
You could have
right,
won.
right. Indirect.
What was your goals to be a county commissioner? Now it's called a commission. Yeah.
It wasn't a goal. It was just.
What did you want to do?
To the extent, just help my people in my community, you know. And I didn't know the ins and outs about politics. So after I got into it, I said that wasn't my cup of tea.
Why?
I'm straightforward. You know, I mean, if you're about right, I'm gonna tell you. If you're not about right, you know, I don't want to be a part of it to a certain extent. You know, so it just wasn't for me. So I wasn't meant to.
So you didn't think politics was right?
Right. You know.
And even more recently, since those days after you came back from '67 and so forth, you didn't think politics was right because I saw where you were a member of a class action lawsuit regarding politicians in Detroit and the Registry of Deeds and all that kind of stuff. Will you want to tell our audience about that?
Well, I'm always sending letters to the councilman or the governor.
Who's your councilman, as a matter of fact, since we have districts now?
Sheffield is.
Okay,
Yeah,
Chef.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
You're in fifth,
yeah,
in the fifth
Mary,
district.
Mary, she's doing a great job. Doing a great job.
She is good.
Yeah. Now, what was the question again?
No, it was. What did you want to do? What did you want to accomplish as a
When I got in young, I just wanted to help my community, whatever, at that particular time. It wasn't nobody else stepping up to the plate, and my grandfather was a Garveyite, so I always heard politics from him.
What's
you know,
a Gar? Oh, you mean Marcus Garvey?
Garvey? Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the Garveyite.
yeah, right.
Okay.
So, and he was traveling then back in the late 40s and 50s, so I would hear all of the history and stuff about what he did and being involved in politics. And by him having a grocery store, they talk politics all the time, you know. So I was around that environment, and you never know what path you're going to go by what you hear as a young kid, you know. So.
So you're saying what you're exposed to and what goes into your mind is very important.
Important at a young age, yes it is. Yes, it
So I tell people that these days, when they're in the car with their kids and so forth, and they're playing all this really gutter rap. I love rap music; it's my favorite music now. But I mean, but all of that, the really vulgar, super vulgar. I mean, and their kids are in the back seat and they just listen to this, and they're in the front seat smoking weed, and I'll say, "What are you guys doing?" First of all, they shouldn't be smelling the smoke, and secondly, why are you letting that stuff go in their mind? Why are you doing this? And they don't. Today's parents don't think anything about it.
But
I mean,
it has
WAP,
effect on
they listen to Megan Thee Stallions,
yeah.
WAP, with their kids present. I'm like, who does this? In the old days, your parents might like that stuff or like dirty. Even the Playboy magazines were hidden, remember? You weren't exposed to anything that was vulgar or anything like that, or that was illegal, which well, at that point, of course, many times smoking weed was illegal. But to be little kids, I'm 10, 12, 13, just sitting there listening to all this stuff in the backseat of the car.
But when this come up, our folks wasn't perfect, but they didn't do things. We didn't see things like it's exposed today with the kids. That's every day.
Correct.
We didn't see that.
No.
Whatever they did.
There were standards.
Right. It was everybody had principles or whatever, and you couldn't do certain things in grandmother's house or your mother's house or whatever. So.
No overnight company of another sex.
That
was not even a thought, was it?
You didn't have that thought in your head.
If any girl staying over with you, that was nope.
You had a curfew. You had certain things to do. You had, if you had to wash dishes, you had to chop wood. You were involved in taking the ashes out or whatever.
Taking out the garbage can, right? All that stuff.
Everybody had a paper route or had a part-time job doing something.
But it's interesting because one of the things, you've been interviewed many, many times. You're, as I said, a national figure, and in many instances a global figure. And you've talked about that, about the fact that children need direction. Parents aren't supposed to be your buddy. That doesn't work like that. And it's interesting. Your perspective was very similar to my father's. Daddy would say, even when I was grown, and I'd say I'm going to do so and so, he said, "No, you're not. You're going to do this." And he'd look at me and say, "Daddy, I'm grown." He'd say, "You may be grown, but we're not equal. So you obey." And I was, "Yes, Daddy." That was it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he was never our buddy. Daddy's not my buddy. Daddy is Daddy. Daddy's up here. I will always be here. I'll never be equal. That's true. But you're right about that. And now parents are, everything is loosey goosey, and everybody's I don't understand it. I mean, it's like everybody's equal in the house. I don't understand that at all. It's amazing to me. And so you get these challenges, from young people and so forth. But back to your experience here in Detroit. So you were exposed, based on everything I read, to black entrepreneurs, as you said earlier, black people who owned every business in your community, and that was your circle. What happened to that, Bert?
To me personally, it was
this education process that you're talking about. You said since we've been miseducated.
Well, everything been a plan, where we will become independent. Detroit was the largest homeowner base that black folks owned in the world.
That's correct.
Was here in Detroit.
That's correct.
And we had Coney Gardens, but different areas or whatever, but everybody took care of their area. Okay?
Correct.
And we didn't really call the
homeowners.
police. We took care of everything within the community ourselves. Okay? So it wasn't where black folks would call the white man to come and solve their problem. We did it ourselves within our community.
Okay.
Okay? Because we wasn't trying to get our kids to go to prison or other stuff, because slavery was already there. Just being a man, black men had a problem, because if they drew, in 1963, I had a 63 Grand Prix, and I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
And when I got out of the
you were rolling.
I got stopped every 4 or 5 blocks. And they want to know what a young black man doing driving a brand new car. But what happened, me and my father had the same name. So I went out to the dealership, brought my father out there one time. And back then, you can put $300 down on a car or whatever. So that's how I got my brand new car. But my father really signed for it.
Of course he did.
But we had the same. But he didn't know he had signed for it.
He didn't.
No.
How did you get him? He didn't know. He did. How did he not know?
Well, I mean, you got to.
Because he was. He's listening to you. Listening to his son.
But I took him out there and just showed him, Daddy, this is what I think I want, But that's where leadership comes from, knowing how to step out the box and deal with certain things.
So you were able to support your car, support yourself from the time.
I've always worked. I had a paper route. I've always had money and learning how to save money at a very early age. I used to put my money in the pet milk can. I used to sell Dixie cups at my grandfather's grocery store for 3 cents. And that was my little business in working in the grocery store. But I still maintained the grocery store, cleaning. We used to kill chickens in the store, make hog head cheese, make sausages and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So the store was self-sufficient, and we took care of the whole community.
So the restaurant business, which is what you have now, the largest entertainment complex, I think, in the city of Detroit belongs to you in terms of food and entertainment and certainly, beverages and so forth, alcohol. You learned that in the store? You learned about food then?
Well, my mother had a restaurant.
Oh.
Okay, so everything...
So you know how to cook yourself?
Well, it just... You didn't think you would get into this business, but everything I was taught, I was exposed to at a very young age.
You were... Yeah, and you really learned it from the ground up. You said you had a place, they had food and you knew how to prepare food, cook food, serve food, etc., etc. Wow, Bert, I didn't know that. So, you were always an entrepreneur?
I was a paper boy. I used to have sign up 100 customers, but I would have 300 customers.
Do you know how cold it was, when you were a kid in Detroit? I mean,
snow
the papers were delivered.
Snow wouldn't come off the ground. Snow would...
We'd start in October.
And you wouldn't till April.
That's
and
correct.
snow was on the ground.
Yeah,
We
and
had
tons
sleds,
of it, too.
wagons and stuff, yeah.
Tons of it.
Yeah.
It was hard work then, to be a paper boy. That was a lot.
But independent, having your own money, being able to go to Hot Sam's and buy what you want, and being able to save. So I've always been able to save.
What's the key to saving? Tell our community.
Well, you can save 10, 20%. It's the hardest part is getting started. So if you make $100 a week, if you can take $10 or $5, whatever it takes, just put it in the envelope. Okay?
And don't touch
You don't
it.
touch that. Okay? And next week, do the same thing. And before you know it, you don't know how much you have. And then when you get into it, you say, well, okay, maybe 5, I'm going to put 10 in this week. But you always got something on the side. Okay?
And you never touch it.
Never touch it.
Never touch it.
But if you have to touch it, it's there.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching us on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world and the nation. You can watch us, listen to us, subscribe, comment on us whenever you feel like it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, any and all social media platforms. My guest today has his name on his jacket here. His name is Bert Deering, an institution in the city of Detroit, not just in Detroit, but across the country, actually, and across the world. He has the most prestigious business establishment, in my view, in the city of Detroit, and he did it by himself. Built it from the ground up, didn't you, Bert?
No, I wouldn't say I did it by myself. I had help with friends, relatives. When I first got in the bar business, all my friends would come and want to bartend for nothing, just want to be around the bar business because it wasn't that many black-owned bars when I got into business in 1968. And what happened, I was just looking for something or whatever, but it was a German bar, and it was for sale, and it used to be a Sears and Roebuck's, right at Van Dyke and Gratiot, and it used to be Don, used to be a little theater, there used to be a little drugstore down on Iroquois and Gratiot. So I was in there doing something, and somebody said, well, there's a bar down for sale on the next block. Someone inquired about it. It was a German bar, and
What year was this?
this is 1968.
So this is when the transition was starting.
After the riot and stuff.
After the riot, so
everybody
yeah.
leaving and stuff.
So white flight was beginning.
Right. So when I was in the service, I got one paycheck. All my other paychecks went into soldier deposit. So I never even touched that money. So when I got out the service, I had all that money.
How did you survive on? You didn't take your paycheck from the service,
Well, I'm a hustler. I'm from Detroit.
so you could play cards.
I played cards. I
You
played
could make
poker.
money. You know, on that point, when I worked for Mayor Young, I set up a fund. I set up the pension fund for the city of Detroit, and it allowed you at that point under the federal IRS laws to deposit your entire check in like an annuity, so you didn't have to take any part of it. They subsequently have changed that. Now you can only put in like 20,000 a year. But anyway, Coleman put his entire check, 140,000, into that every year, and he made all his money just gambling.
Yeah.
Even at Manugian, he could play poker and he could win money, win all this stuff. He just all of his so it was not taxed until he was a senior citizen. You know, until he decided to take it out. So that's amazing. So you put all your money
Right.
into the bank
So
and
deposit,
hustled your
Right.
for your spending money, your eating and clothes and drinking and everything else and car and
Well, my father was a hustler. He was a gambler.
what was the game? Gambling?
Gamble.
Just like Coleman.
What
did he play?
Anything you want to play, he could play.
Can you play anything?
I can play anything you want to play.
Poker and
It's
everything.
all in the mind, just knowing that you can win, staying in the game. So my
Do you
father,
enjoy it?
I haven't did it. I can't find. We used to play poker every Tuesday. About 3 years ago, and most of all my friends have passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, but prior to then, my father would show me how to play cards or whatever, so I wouldn't be a trick out there. So I
Okay.
knew how they marked the cards, bees, how they sand the cards and stuff or whatever. And being a hustler back then, my father would go,
Cause you can count cards then.
oh yeah, in your mind, oh yeah.
Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Being a hustler back
Being a
then.
hustler back then, my father would go to the drugstore and buy all the cards. Okay? And they would come back and this is what I seen with the kettle or whatever, take the steam from it, unwrap the cards, take the cards out, sand the little cards, B cards on the side, bicycle, they would, the little wing, they would mark that. Okay? Then they would put the cards back in, take them back to the drugstore and raise hell, say, just take these cards back, I want.
Mm-hmm.
So then he would have the guy drive to the
amazing.
drugstore, go in there and get the cards. Okay, so the guy got the cards. So now my father's playing the cards that he had already marked. So I mean, all this, but this was how people survived and hustled, you know. So I was well aware of all this. So when I was in the service, I didn't have that, but I knew how to play cards, you know. And,
Better than everybody else, right?
Right,
That's for
right,
sure.
right.
Your skill level was
Right, right.
superior.
So-
They were amateurs.
And I was on the missile site, so we gambled all night. So when they got paid, and then I loaned money at 50% interest.
Oh my
So
gosh.
if you borrowed $100 from me,
You owed you 150.
no, but I thought I had them paying me $200 back. I thought that was I swear to God, I thought that was 50%.
50%.
Okay, so after I realized 100%, I wasn't having no problem. I stayed at 100%. So I would loan the captains, the ward officers, you know, whatever they want. So when they got paid, I had my table just like this in the mess hall before you got out, and they would pay me. So I was going to Japan, buying Omega watches, buying Sansui speakers and stuff, all the albums and stuff. So I didn't never have to use my money and use everybody else's money.
That was very, very astute on your part. Very, very shrewd. But it's amazing that you did so. You never even cashed your checks. You were like Coleman. Coleman didn't either. He could hustle us up on money, on cash money. It was amazing to me that he told me that he did that. But I set it up, and I remember that the whole check went out. I said, "How you do this?" And he said, "I don't need my check. I can make money without my check." At the card table, like you just
And
said.
it's a whole lot of people with third grade educations or whatever. They knew how to hustle. They knew how to dress business wise or whatever. and they just took it and went and bought houses and other stuff. So you have some smart individuals come from Detroit to do many things. I know of individuals that was from here and wasn't on top of the game like other folks, but they went other places, Atlanta, California, whatever, and they became the leaders of the particular community because they came from Detroit. And it was raised around a hustling environment.
But the key to everything that you're saying was that point about saving money so that you have capital that you can work with to transfer into a business or to real estate or whatever it is. Because I remember years ago, I called you on the phone actually, Bert. I know you don't remember this, but I read the paper because I'm a paper person. I don't like reading on the phone or anything like that. And I remember seeing your name when you were buying all these tax foreclosure properties. And you told me, I said, you said, yeah, that's me, Linda. Remember, I mean, if you had like 30, it would be listed that you had gone to the auction and bought the property. And so that goes back to what you're saying about investing in things and what you always tell people, if you don't have generational wealth, you don't have anything.
You have to plan.
You say that in almost every interview that I've read of you. I read, when you were participating. But you would invest in real estate too.
Well, I'm all about the kids. I'm all about the kids. I mean, you can just see they're innocent. They just want to be hugged. They just want to be touched. And they want to be. Everybody wants to feel special.
But you know what? Their minds are a sponge.
Yeah.
And if you put stuff in it, it can really work. And I started this broadcast talking about Ukraine. And what has been most remarkable, I think, to Americans about that situation is how articulate those people are, the English that they speak. And the reason they do that, Bert, is half my family is German. The reason they do that is that there's this educational system that Hitler has, and we only have it in Detroit, like a Detroit Country Day. And in that educational system, which is predominant now throughout Western Europe, from kindergarten to fourth grade, you're learning your language, Ukrainian, or French, or Italian, whatever. From fourth grade in the fourth grade, you start learning English. You have to keep learning English to the 12th grade. That's why they speak English. English is not their native language. And in the ninth grade, you start a foreign language. So from kindergarten to fourth, I'm just learning Ukrainian. Then from fourth grade to 12, I'm learning English. In the ninth grade, I have to learn a foreign language. So you can pick, like French or German or whatever, Italian, whatever. So when you finish high school, these are the same, just like us flesh and blood kids. You actually know 3 languages. Not only that, because my aunt was telling me, she was just amazing. You had to take a team sport. She took swimming, and she'd swim in that cold ass water from the Alps that would come down into Austria and Germany. Cold, but she was a swimmer. She had to take a team sport, mandatory, and you had to have an individual sport. She picked archery. I mean, these are people poorer than we were. I'm just poor people, but this was the system, and it was paid for, of course, by the government. Not only that, you had to take a musical instrument. She took violin. So you had this cultural and physical and intellectual component from at a time in your life when you're a sponge, when you can pick up everything. Your mind is easy, open, fresh, not old, not retarded or anything like that. But that's why all those people, if you watch the news, are all speaking English about their experience. And our people could have done that.
Well, we had the same programs up until the 60s. Okay, where you had to take shop, you had to take printing, something you had to do. You took musical, you had
art.
These programs, art, all that. Okay. They took all that out of school. All that out of school in the 70s. Okay.
But they took it out of all schools, except the private schools.
You can go to Grosse Pointe, you can go
Oh, no, that's not true. That's
Dearborn,
right. They
you can
do
go
have.
anywhere
Except
other
the
than
language
city
component,
of Detroit,
right.
They still had the same program.
Yes, you're right. They do have band. They have all that stuff. You're right.
Okay.
You're right about that.
Okay. They took them all out of the black community where black folks.
So why do you think that was just part of
That's a
racism?
plan. All this planned. Everything. Things just don't happen. Okay. The
You
freeway,
started your conversation by saying
the freeway coming through every black community. They went through every black community in every major black city, took out the commercial strip.
Well, I know something about that because I headed legal services, as you know, for 16 years, and our office handled the Hamtramck lawsuit, took out the black community in Hamtramck, and it's the I-75 lawsuit, quite frankly, took out the whole black community that was over there, and as you say, came right downtown, and we won it. The case was handled actually by Judge Damon Keith, and the consent decree is still in effect for that. So people who are descendants of those people can actually still get money through the consent decree, because the state actually gerrymandered, as you just said, the freeway in order to wipe out the black community, and it wiped out the black business community, and it made us serfs again, because we were just my sister refers to it as the plantation. We just had to work for somebody else. We couldn't work for ourselves because our business opportunities were taken away.
And all that was military. When they came through the freeway, they backed us up against the railroad tracks, the river, or some vine dock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came through and cut all our trees and stuff down so they can watch us from above in the helicopters. They came through our neighborhood talking about we had, I can't call them.
I didn't know about the tree situation.
Oh, yeah. Oh. But see, I was in military also.
Yes.
So I knew when I was in the service, I was in Korea at the DMZ. So I had missiles. I can look up on top of the hill, and I can see the North Koreans and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we had missiles pointing right to them. And when we went out on maneuvers and stuff, so but being part of the missiles, certain programs and stuff you read, so if you're there, I educated myself. I always had a book reading something or whatever.
Me too.
And I'm still reading.
Me too.
And
I've always been a reader.
I don't know how you can travel not taking a book with you.
But you know what irritates? And it's refreshing when I see a person with a book these days. Because everybody has that Kindle or something. How the heck do you need it? You don't need electricity to read. You got to have a plug where the doggone thing is going to run down. All you need is an open plate. That's why I still like the newspaper. I get all my friends say I get my news off my phone. How do you do that? You don't. Your mind, I may see something in any column that that attracts my interest, and I can't do that if I'm just reading one stupid article on one screen on my phone.
But you can take a book and take a pencil and do whatever.
Just what I did today.
Okay.
Yeah. I have to read because that's the way knowledge has always been transferred, and always obviously through spoken word. But I'm like you in terms.
That's how I was taught.
Speaking of reading, I had Representative Cherie Thanadar on a couple of weeks ago. He's written a book. He gave me a copy while he was here. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But have you written a book yet?
No.
Why? Now here, Mr. Transfer Knowledge, the king of knowledge in terms of black history in the city of Detroit. That guy that Duggan just hired actually needs to sit down with you and you alone. That would almost be enough for him to have a clear understanding. As, quote, the Detroit historian, which is, he gets paid for this, $100,000 a year. He's the historian for the city of Detroit. So, you have not written a book?
No.
Shame, shame, shame. A man as literate as you are, and everything. But what's fascinating about you, not only about your knowledge about Detroit, is your knowledge about African American people in general. I was in your office recently, and you showed me a card that you have. I don't know if you have it now. You say you don't need a passport. And before we get into that, I want to take a station break real quick. Again, you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world as well as the nation. You can watch us, listen to us, subscribe to us on any and all social media platforms. I urge you to pull up this interview of the real Detroit historian, Mr. Bert Deering, and listen and learn today. The card that Bert just handed me says League of Indian Nations of North America, National Indian Government, and it has his picture, and his tribal ID. Tell us about this and why this is important. Why I need to go get one.
I'm a state nationalist.
What does that mean?
Okay. My My allegiance is to the state of Michigan, where I was born at. So I was born here in Michigan. Okay. Prior to the United States becoming United States, there were all several states.
There were what?
There were several states before they became the United States.
That's before we united,
States,
right?
Okay.
I thought there were 13 original colonies.
Right. So, and I'm a state nationalist. Now, United States is 10 square miles in Virginia. Okay. So, United States is a corporation.
It's not a republic? I thought it was a
No,
republic.
Michigan is certain states are republic. Texas is Republican.
Yeah, Texas is a
Michigan is still a republic.
Is a republic?
Still Republican. Okay.
Okay.
So
What bill? You mean money?
your driver's license, everything you get.
Yeah, it is. Everything's
it's
in all caps.
caps. Okay.
Right,
all
that's
caps
true.
is
Says
corporation.
Bernard.
All caps is corporation.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay. So when you were born, and when they registered, you became dead. Well, it's a whole lot. I don't want to get.
Okay,
I
2
don't,
seconds.
You know, but what I'm saying is, a corporation can only deal with corporations.
That's correct.
Okay, but I'm a live human being, so I went back and reclaimed myself as being a live, living person.
Right.
So you have to do a name change, a bunch of other stuff that you need. You have to go through probate court. Now, the state can come and take your kids anytime because you're owned by the state because you're still in all caps.
Mm-hmm.
The state is a corporation. Now, if you look at this here, this is capital B and then small letters.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Capital B, ERT, small letter, small
Okay.
case. William, capital W, rest small letters. Deering, capital D, rest small letters.
Okay, look at your driver's license. Everything is in all caps.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's a fact.
That's because you're a corporation.
Okay. So
Okay.
how do I become a member of the League of Indian Nations of North America? This is all you need. It has your fingerprint. This is
Yeah.
state
it's-
ID.
it's
This is
legit.
international ID.
It's legit. Yeah.
What is that symbol? Is that the Indian symbol right there?
That's our logo. Yes.
Okay. So how do you do this?
If you even look at the flag, the Wayne County flag, what do you see? Indians, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you have to know your my ancestors. I can go all the way back to 1150, where my ancestors were.
1150 AD.
AD. Okay.
How did you do that?
Just studying, just going the same thing the white folks able to do. Okay.
Tell me.
But now, I thought in the beginning, because I had folks from Wales and Scotland, but they were black. Everybody in Scotland and Wales was black back then.
Okay.
Okay.
But
So,
the Indians are descendants of Africans.
well, my
Indigo. The word Indian came from the word indigo, meaning dark.
okay, but I'm a Cree Indian. My folks was out of Florida.
Who?
Okay. My mother, my grandfather, father, my grandfather, mother was a Cree Indian.
Okay.
She stayed with us in the late 40s and 50s. She was 100 years old. Okay, so I went back down to Florida and checked
the records.
the history and stuff. And her father was John Cox. He was a merchant marine. They had one all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all you got to do is just sit and study. Everything is there. You know, you just got to take time if you want to know. And I just take time to learn about me and my people. And
So you did your family tree, so to speak,
oh yeah.
back to 1150 AD.
Yes.
And those were the Scots and the Welsh?
Welsh, right, and they were black.
Okay.
Okay.
And there was intermarrying all along the way?
Well, I mean, if you check with Benjamin Franklin, when he first went to Europe,
Yeah,
and
Paris.
he states, you know, the most of the population in the world is black, you know, and a few whites in a certain area, whatever, but they have changed our whole complete history. Okay, because when I was coming up, I just thought Africa, everybody was like Tarzan with swords and stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Barbarians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Indians, they were always, so they have taken, you know, even the the Indians, when they did the census, didn't want to be an Indian. Okay, so they have controlled everything because of the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and So
The 13 families that you mentioned
13
first
families, 13
that
families.
control the world.
Right.
They're all white. Well, Rothschild, was that Jewish or German? I can't
He's
remember.
Jewish.
So, who are the third? Do you know who the 13 are offhand?
I
You
do.
got the information, but
I
the
got
Rockefellers,
all of it.
Rothschilds, I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
and the others came from the British Crown.
Well, who controls the world is the Pope.
Pope, not anymore. In the old days,
Indirectly, ain't nothing changed. Old money
the
don't
banking
go,
system,
old money don't
it's
go
a
no-
global banking system.
Okay, it's the Pope, London, and
London.
it's supposed to be USA.
And who? In the USA.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Where's China in that picture now? Aren't they the persons that to be most concerned about?
England's still on China. Okay, you don't give up power when you just do it another way. Okay, they own the opium trade. They conquered China with the opium trade.
Correct. That's
Okay?
correct.
England.
That is
Okay,
correct.
okay,
They sure
okay,
did.
Okay.
That's a fact.
So you just don't give up. If you run this block, control this block, you don't give it up. You just step back and put somebody else in charge of it. You still got a certain percentage or whatever. Okay. Okay. So nothing changed. Okay. Just knowing your history, whatever, and just.
That's why we were criticized so much about giving Russia that pipeline when Biden did that, and we got nothing in return. Who does that? I mean, who gives a country, access, gives them control of the pipeline that we have, and we get nothing in return? How do you do that?
United Nations is all about one world, one new world order. They're all there together. Okay, we're just sheep.
And that world order will be, in your opinion,
13 families, 300 families, or whatever. Okay,
the new billionaires.
right? It don't change.
We'll have our first trillionaire probably within the next 5 years, for sure.
You already have them. They don't.
They just don't. We don't know it.
You don't. That's right.
They're not on Forbes' list.
That's the list is for the ones that want to be on the list. But the ones with money, old money, that's been here 400 years.
You don't even see Rothschild. You don't even see those names. They're not on that list.
You never see Rothschild on any papers or anything. They control everything. They have agents doing everything, controlling everything for them.
That is absolutely.
Okay.
That is absolutely true. So you think? So you're not as concerned about the new world order? It's going to hurt us. It's going to hurt African Americans and Africans.
I'm more concerned what can we do about what we have in our community. Okay? City of Detroit, okay? We don't own anything in the city of Detroit. You can come here from a foreign country.
The Chinese
Be here
did.
10 years. No, any of them, okay? Because we still on that eye. They know how to keep us separated. Okay? Okay? Until I had put a thing together called African Town.
I remember.
Okay.
It's a beautiful,
Okay.
magnificent development.
Right. But we would own our own.
Correct.
Create our own same
was
area.
very impressive.
You would
It was like
draw
Birmingham.
Stuff. You would have a museum. You would have an attraction there. You have boutique shops or whatever. But it's all about integrity and doing business the right way.
So what's happening with African Town?
It's still on hold. It's when things happen, it'll happen. If it's gonna happen, it'll happen.
It's like this was like creating Birmingham. That's really what it reminded me of. It was just that together, just that sharp, just sweet like that.
And the area was from Shane to McDougal, from Gratiot to Canfield or up to Warren now, where you would have your Paradise Valley would be from Mac to Gratiot. This would be your commercial area, and the village would be from Mac all the way back to Warren. And you have housing and stuff, infield housing, all of the stuff. Doing your sororities, having a museum and stuff, so you have attraction and stuff. So I still got the plans, but I can't do it by myself. So whenever I can find the right people on the same level that want to do it, it'll happen. It can happen overnight,
You started your interview today by saying that America were the biggest liars in the world because you were talking
The
about
government, the government,
the
yeah,
government.
yeah.
The government was the biggest because there's so many lies within our history, and we hear a lot about that these days because we hear about this thing called critical race theory, which they say is tearing down America's heritage, but in reality, it's just telling the truth. Is that your
The
understanding?
truth is coming out. The truth is coming out.
Finally coming
Okay,
out.
and and the white folks are finding out also. They're no different than us. They've been slaves all along. Also, they're waking up and finding out they're just as close to us as we're
This is
close
what?
to them. They're just as close to us as we're close to them by being family,
Correct.
a united family as a whole, because they're they're no different because they all caps also. So they're part of the corporation,
I see.
okay? And they're waking up all over, different groups all over the country is waking up.
And you've seen more of it in academia too. We've just been taught one thing, but that's not the real thing.
No.
Particularly with respect to African Americans and the history of America in terms of what we actually did, why America is really great, doesn't just relate to slavery, it relates to the slave uprising and our winning the Civil War. We would never have won the Civil War. The North would never have won it without the 200,000 black soldiers. 18 of whom received the Medal of Honor more than any time in history. 18 African Americans received Medal of Honor for their bravery and fighting in the Civil War, for example.
And just take Haiti for example. Haiti
Was the
will
first democracy.
always be one of the poorest countries in the world
But why?
because Haiti kicked Europeans' ass.
Yes, they did.
White folks don't like getting their ass whooped.
They don't like losing.
Losing, okay? And they're all part of the European nation, okay? So they'll do anything for any other country in the West Indies or whatever, but Haiti will always be a poor country.
It bothers me so much, Bill, the fact that we don't have a border anymore in the South really bothers me. But I viewed the people from Haiti as legitimate refugees. I mean, their president was assassinated. They'd had the earthquake. They'd had the hurricane. These people are really refugees. They really need to come. They're not just opportunists, want, quote, a better life. These people really need our help, just like these people that are coming across the border right now all over Europe and Ukraine. I mean, they're letting the women and children go. This was serious stuff that was happening with Haiti, and I don't understand our position with respect to that, or our government's position with respect to Haitians. Although they tell me now that they have sort of taken, you go to Florida a lot, that they've sort of taken over the service industry in Florida. Is that your understanding as well?
Well, they're hustlers. You have to fit in where you can fit in at. Yeah. So they're opening their business up little by little, but they stick together as a
Save
group.
their money, like you said.
Right. And step by step they're moving, trying to take care and bring these folks here or whatever. Same other every other nationality up there that came from Europe or whatever. They came, they was in a certain community, and they saved their money and they're working just better themselves. But they send their college. All their kids went to college. Okay, the Jewish population. You never see nobody that's a Jew out on the streets with a sign.
Never.
Okay, they take care of their folks. Everybody go to college. Everybody go and study law.
And Asians
Okay.
too.
Right, all of them. But see, they own businesses. They don't work the business.
That's correct.
Okay, so you already have that generational wealth.
What you were talking about earlier.
Okay, and we've been denied generational wealth. Okay, so we'll turn on each other because it's that Kraft syndrome that we have, that Willie Lynch thing. Okay, it's in the DNA indirectly.
But see, you interrupted all that because you started your own business. You put your own name on it. You've developed your kids and your grandkids for that, quote, generational wealth. You're a hero within this community, Bert dear, and you always have been, you always will be. And I'll never forget when you, out of your own pocket, paid for giant screens as big as this room and closed down the street at your business down on Russell Street for Obama when he was elected that day. You're the only person that as or tears in your eyes when he was elected, and when you showed his everything downtown on the streets for 7,000 people to just walk up, sit down, and watch. So
Well,
you're our hero.
We had a march from Cobo Hall all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're our
streets off,
hero.
everything. Yeah.
And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you, Mr. Burt Deering, and go to Burt's Marketplace, his restaurant, the Motown Room, and all the rest of the businesses that he has down there, the best barbecue in the city of Detroit. But if you get a chance, shake his hand. He's a great man, a great Detroiter, and a great American who served his country and the world. Thank you, Burt Deering, for joining me today on Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard.
Thank you, Linda. Anytime.
Thank you. You're a great guy. I gotta get me a card. I told you that the first time you showed me that, but you didn't.
Okay.